Feast TV is brought to you with support by Missouri Wines, Whole Foods Market, and Roth Distributing. This month on Feast TV, we are celebrating the vegetable, which might sound boring, but I promise you it is not. And we are actually going to be focusing in on the radish. Now, the recipe that we're going to be doing today was developed by John Perkins over at Juniper. He is very well known for his creative takes on vegetable preparations, and we're going to be pairing our radishes 3 ways with a vignole from Baltimore Bend Vineyards, which is out near Kansas City in Waverly, Missouri. Now, most radishes that you see are this kind of bulbous red kind. You'll notice a few other varieties of radishes in this bowl, and that is exactly the point of our first segment. We're gonna take you down to Mansfield, Missouri to meet Jere Gettle, the man behind Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds.
Yeah, we're here at the Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company in Mansfield, Missouri, actually just north of town, about 5 miles. I started saving seeds at a fairly young age as a teenager, and I think what got me interested in it, I grew up with a family who, all of my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, my parents, everybody liked to garden pretty much on both sides of the family. So I grew up around it, and about the time I was 4 or 5 years old, I knew someday I wanted to work for a seed company. An heirloom seed means different things to different people, but to me it's a seed that's been passed down from generations to generations, like an antique, but it's basically a traditional variety that hasn't been patented, it hasn't been gene altered, it's still grown and saved and passed down, just like seeds always have been until the last, maybe 30, 40, maybe 50, 60 years. Our friend Joseph Simcox, who collects seeds for us all over the planet, he collected this it's called a cabbage turnip from in the mountains of Italy from a gentleman there. And the history goes that it has a very long history in Italy anyway, and it's about 2,000 years old according to the farmer that's been growing it. And one of the things that makes it unique is it's actually related to cabbage more than it is turnips, and it gets about 15 pounds. So it's a huge, massive, cabbage-flavored, turnip-like root that has a huge ability to feed a lot of people. The genetic diversity is important because it's like right here where we're standing, we're growing hundreds of different crops, and every year if we say we plant this whole garden in tomatoes, there's going to be a lot of disease pressure, there's going to be a lot of insects bothering tomatoes, but since we have probably 100 or more different crops that we're trialing in this small garden, insect pressure is a lot less, disease pressure is a lot less. Plus, if you look around the garden, there's all sorts of pollinators, there's all sorts of insects, which are dying out in modern agriculture. In our catalog, we have about 225 different tomatoes, but that just represents a fraction of the tomatoes available in this country. The diversity of crops is not only in their histories and their colors, it also translates, the colors oftentimes translates to different flavors. For example, in tomatoes, we have tomatoes that are dark purplish, and they tend to have the richest, deepest flavors. Then you have tomatoes that range all the way to almost white, and they have the sweetest, fruitiest flavors, mildest flavors. Chefs are pretty much looking for the same thing home gardeners are. Sometimes they're even looking for more unusual things. One of them, for example, is the Mexican sour gherkin. It's a little tiny cucumber about the size of smaller than a quarter, about the size of a nickel. But these have been very, very popular with chefs. The better restaurants all across America can't get enough of them. But as far as other vegetables go, everything is popular, whether it's like the rat-tailed radish that people use the pods on. Chefs love those. The edible flowers are huge. You know, chefs are doing more and more with edible flowers and unusual parts of plants. We also have a restaurant here on our place that's open for lunch. What we try to do is have everything we grow in the garden be served in the restaurant. It's always challenging because we're always growing new things, so we're always trying to figure out new ways to serve new vegetables, but that's our goal. Yeah, one of the great things that we do and the things that I enjoy is actually having people hand us different varieties, going to farmers markets and especially in other countries and small tribal villages and so forth, and meeting with people, having them hand you a seed that their grandmother or great-grandmother might have grew. The diversity not only helps the ability to be able to keep the seeds and the diverse histories alive, but it also keeps the local culture alive.
And the beauty of this particular recipe is the fact that it takes a vegetable that is extremely humble and inexpensive, like the radish, and it shows you what's possible. Okay, now we're gonna make our very simple pickling solution, which is a ratio of 1:1, just water to rice vinegar. We're gonna use brown rice vinegar for this. And then a 3:1 ratio of sugar to kosher salt. So that's just plain old sugar. And per John's suggestion in the recipe that we published this month, I'm adding a bay leaf along with my salt, some red chili flake for a little bit of heat. I'm also going to add in some fresh ginger. This, you might not know what this is. This is fresh horseradish. You can smell the spiciness, kind of like wasabi when it goes straight up your nose. Fresh horseradish, that's exactly what it gives you. All right, I'm just gonna put this on the stove and let it come to a boil. Our brine has been boiling for just a little bit in order to make sure that some of the flavors come out of the ingredients and the sugar has dissolved. So this is a quick pickle, which really you can use this method to pickle a lot of different things. And all you do is you boil your brine and then pour it directly over whatever it is you want to pickle, in this case our radishes, and then you just let it sit. That's all you have to do. So once it's cool, then we're just gonna drain the brine off and serve them with the rest of the radishes. So when you watch that first segment with Jere Gettle, you might have gotten all excited about playing with some of those seeds in your own home garden. And you might also be thinking, but I'm not really sure quite what to do with them. Well, there is a place in Ferguson, Missouri called EarthDance, and it's run by a gal named Molly Rockman. It's actually a nonprofit that specializes in teaching people how to farm, but they also have classes for home gardeners. So let's go take a look at what they're doing up at EarthDance.
This farm was established in 1883 by the Miller family. Al and Caroline were the third generations to farm it, which is considered to be the oldest organic farm west of the Mississippi. We merge farming education with agricultural production. So we are actually a working farm. We grow a lot of food here. In fact, last year we grew over 17,000 pounds. And we are also very much about growing farmers and community here as well. It's really important that if we want sources of really delicious, local, fresh food, we actually have farms in our region dedicated to growing that food, and more importantly, the people to do it. So we actually need to train the next generation of farmers. This year, the apprenticeship program is called the Farm and Garden Apprenticeship. We actually have a garden scale educational component as well, so that people can actually take home the skills of building a compost pile that you might do in your backyard versus a huge windrow compost pile that you'd see on a farm. It's not for the faint of heart, but I think a lot of people realize how rewarding the work itself is. And a lot of people maybe realize too that they don't want to do it alone, that it's a really tough gig to do single-handedly, and it works better in partnership or even in community. We're really excited to be able to build long-term partnerships, and one of those is with Lincoln University, which has one of the only certified organic research farms in the country in Jefferson City. And we, as an urban farm, are a site where they are carrying out on-farm research to actually try to stay ahead of the curve with organic pest management here. It's really exciting to see how this movement has changed in St. Louis in the last 10 years. When I started EarthDance in 2008, maybe there was 2 or 3 CSA farms. Now there's a huge listing of farms in the area, and a lot of farms are actually still looking for members. So I think we're at that point where we still need more consumers adopting organic, locally grown as their regular entree and not as their side dish. This year we have a new youth program where we're actually hiring high school teens to work on the farm, and it's totally a dream come true for me. I want us to see graduates of our program, which we have seen, actually farming and making income from their farms. I want us to see more individuals incorporating gardening into their school curriculum, and more people actually expanding their own production for their own family's consumption. In a nutshell, it is about using a local farm with a really incredible history and legacy behind it to actually bring community members together to learn how to grow and eat and prepare real food and celebrate that food. We have a long-term vision for the development of our campus here, this 14-acre campus, and I see a place where people are growing food alongside creative endeavors flourishing. The most rewarding part of EarthDance to me is seeing how much real change is happening in the St. Louis region as a result of the work that we're doing.
Molly is an incredible person. She's traveled all over the world, and I love that she came home to start this nonprofit. It really is something that will reverberate throughout generations, the fact that she is teaching people how to be small, independent farmers. It's very, very exciting work that she's doing, and I really admire her. Okay, so our other 2 preparations of radishes. I'm sure you're wondering, what else can you do with the radish? Well, we're going to roast and also just very thinly slice and put on ice the radishes. So right now I'm getting these ready to go into the oven, and these are just either being quartered or halved. You want them to be the same size so that they cook at the same rate. So I'm just kind of going through these relatively quickly. So I've put a little bit of kosher salt onto my radishes, and now all I have to do is toss them in some butter. Toss them around so they're fully coated. Put them on your baking sheet. I'm gonna pop these in a 400-degree oven and let them roast until they're still a little bit crunchy but have a nice caramelization to them. Now, the last application of the radish is we're going to shave radishes into a bowl of ice cold water using a mandolin. And if you've never used a mandolin, this is what one looks like. They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, but what they all have in common is this very sharp diagonal blade. And what you do is you run whatever it is that you want to cut very quickly over this blade. And so they're a little bit dangerous to use, quite frankly, so be extremely careful, but they're also very efficient, and you get the same exact size of a cut every single time, which is why people really love using them. So this is how you use the mandolin, and as you can see, it happens very quickly, and usually people will use guards, but these are so tiny, it's hard to do that, but you can see this is just an absolutely perfect disc. So I'm gonna go ahead and get through all of these. and then I'm gonna go check my little guys in the oven. So playing with textures and flavors of things that are unfamiliar is something that we're celebrating in this episode. And one thing that is definitely unfamiliar to a lot of American diners is tofu. And that's really a shame because in and of itself, tofu really is delicious. And it's not just for vegetarians. So I want to introduce you to the gentleman behind MOFU Tofu, which is an organic, sustainable tofu that's made right here in St. Louis.
MOFU is sweet, it's nutty, it has a texture that you really don't find in other products. It is always extremely fresh, and it really has this like earthy quality that is really unique to our product. Well, the first step in making great tofu is buying great soybeans. So we work with a farmer, his name's Rusty Lee, from Lee Farms in Truxton, Missouri, and he grows high protein, non-GMO soybeans specifically for us. And so we get those every year. Usually after the first frost in October, we get like new beans. It's really exciting. From there, we spin them down over the year. So the reason our product, our tofu, is different than other tofus is because we make our soy milk by cooking the soybeans with the water, and then we puree it, where other companies puree first and pull out soy milk and then cook it. So that's a huge difference, and what that does for us is it makes a much richer, more flavorful soy milk, and we capture a lot of the inherent sweetness in soybeans, a lot of the beany quality that you don't get when you extract before you cook. From there, we run a really heavy soy milk. So versus trying to stretch out our soy milk to meet like a bottom line, we put more and more soybeans. We put them as much in as possible to make a super rich soy milk, which is almost like the Guinness of soy milk. And then we take that and coagulate it and come out with like the beautiful curds that we press into really, really firm blocks that cook well, they eat well, and they're just really delicious. So the texture is much like a smoked Gouda cheese, if you've ever had that. It's soft and it can be spongy depending on how much water you press out of it, but it stays together. It has like this tension, and like it easily breaks under the tooth, but at the same time it holds together, and it can just really be like super sensual on your palate, and it's really, really pleasant to eat. Fresh, cooked. Anyway, right when we first started the business, actually, something I feel like when you start a business, there's like, even anytime you own a business, there's always these moments where you're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? How long am I going to keep doing this? And then you're really surprised when, especially for MOFU and myself, it's like always at the right moment, somebody in the area that's had our product finds a way to talk to me and let us know that like what we're doing is really special. And one of the first instances of that was we were at a farmer's market, and a gentleman came up to me and he said, I have not had tofu like this since I was in Japan 30 years ago. And it totally blew me away. I mean, I got like goosebumps after he said that, because I've been like, that's like the whole reason why we do what we do. And getting that type of affirmation from our customers is just a really, really good feeling.
So MOFU is available on menus across St. Louis, especially taco joints like Gringo and Mission Taco. So get out there and try some of that. It's really good. If you've never tried tofu, tacos are definitely a good way to get your introduction to soybean curd. Leeks very often, because of the layers, will get dirt kind of trapped inside of here. So don't just cut one open, chop it up, and cook with it. You always want to rinse it. So I've done that, and I'm just going to give it a rough chop, and then I'm going to throw it into a pot of boiling water for just a couple of seconds. Okay, so these leeks have just come out of a pot of boiling salted water. They are just barely blanched, and I'm putting them in the food processor with an ice cube, and this will serve to keep it from becoming discolored as it's chopped up. Now to the leeks, I'm going to add a half a cup of miso paste. Now, if you've ever had miso soup at your local sushi restaurant, that's exactly what this is. It's made from soybeans, and it's a fermented paste, and in a lot of Asian cuisines, you'll find that fermentation is something that they use very regularly in order to enhance flavor. It's an ancient preservation technique, and you end up with extremely complex flavor, that elusive fifth taste that you can't quite put your finger on, but you know if it's missing. So we've got a half a cup of the miso paste. I'm just gonna put this in with our leeks, and we're gonna put in a couple of tablespoons of mirin. I love working with Asian ingredients. And so mirin is a rice cooking wine, and it has a sweetness to it, just a couple of tablespoons. And again, I say this all the time, but you really can eyeball it, because once we puree this, we're gonna taste and adjust the seasoning. So we are pretty well mixed together, and it does have a paste-like consistency. It's not runny, it kind of sticks to the spoon. It's going to enhance the flavors of those radishes just perfectly. So up until this point in the show, we've been talking about the vegetables themselves, but I think it's about time we get into the kitchen with a chef who really loves to work with vegetables and see him work his magic. So let's head over to Firefly in Effingham, Illinois, and meet Niall Campbell, who has a massive garden to support his farm-to-table restaurant.
So this is the bulk of this is the original Firefly garden. And to be completely honest, if we go all the way back to the pond there and come forward 4 rows, that was the original garden that was here. And we've expanded every year. We've taken it this way, we've taken it that way. And then we actually just purchased a bunch of land and put in about another 1/4 acre worth of garden. I think produce is starting to show up more in people's peripheral vision, you know, and by seeing heirloom products and by tasting tomatoes that they're growing themselves. I think that people are just peripherally taking more in and have more of an understanding of produce. I believe that everything starts with community. I think it's really, really important to involve your community. We receive a tremendous amount of traffic off from the interstates. And in that, I like to say that we import a lot of money, and it's our civil responsibility to make sure that's distributed within the town. But really, as a chef, when it gets down to the root of it, there is nothing better than going out and picking your own produce. You know, in the same way I feel about community, I also kind of feel about the plate. Everything has its place. And if I do my job correctly by balancing flavors of produce along with proteins, you know, everyone kind of plays its part and does its role on the plate. As far as growing food, that's all I've ever known. No matter where I've been, that's just always kind of been a niche, whether it's just been herbs or just having a few things going. Here we've taken it to a different extreme. And we continue to you know, expand our gardens, and you know, this year we acquired our own tractor, and so I would like to maybe we're getting close to big ag. Also creates a great connection for employees. If they have to spend time weeding and harvesting and doing those types of things, there's a whole new level of appreciation for the food that they're putting on a plate. The garden, at this point, can't completely take care of us. We probably work with through the summertime, foragers, farmers, everybody, we probably work with 15 to 20 different, small folks. When people pull around the corner and there's like Kentucky Fried Chicken and a bunch of other, and then they make their way around this corner, and as the sun is setting behind here and the place is lit up, generally they walk through the door and are flabbergasted that we're here. Chefs are kind of the, kind of in the ever-changing world of food, we're kind of the gatekeepers on what happens. And what's really good, like to be able to say, all protein on the plate, or everything serves a purpose, and it's up to us to make sure that balance is kept in check, and that we're able to kind of explore new flavors. And I think between television, magazine, and also the free market saying this produce is really good, everyone should be eating it. I think that movement is just going to help everyone kind of push not necessarily all produce to the center plate, but people start to understand and appreciate it more. I'm blessed. I get to get up every morning and do what I truly love. I start my morning in the garden. I come into the kitchen. We start working with products. And then we're able to feed people this stuff. And so we're kind of reaping what we sow. And it's a really amazing experience to watch everything happen the whole way through, right from picking to production to plating to customer to creating experience for somebody.
So Effingham, Illinois is actually where booze blocks are made. So if you remember a few episodes back, we took you to see the booze factory. That's exactly where Firefly is located. So you can go out, visit the booze factory, the booze outlet, and stop for a great dinner as well. Okay, the time has come. We are going to plate our radishes 3 ways. Here we have that wonderful miso paste. And you can arrange it however you want on whatever serving plate you have. I'm doing 3 dollops, 1 for each of my 3 radishes. And now I'm just going to play and arrange. And now I'm just going to sprinkle with a little bit of toasted black walnuts, which we have also featured on Feast TV. This is a local ingredient with a really wonderful flavor. And then we're just gonna garnish with a few edible flowers. And you'll see that on a lot of especially high-end restaurant menus and the platings in high-end restaurants, chefs are using a lot of flowers these days as a way to just enhance the texture and just the eye appeal of dishes. So it's just really fun. I have to tell you, this just makes me happy. It makes me smile. This is such simple ingredients have come together in a really interesting way. And this is what makes cooking lots and lots of fun, is discovering new ways to cook with things that you're very familiar with. And I'm gonna pair this wonderful dish with a vignole from Baltimore Bend, which, like I said earlier, is out near Kansas City. Vignole has a wonderful crispness to it and a really lively acidity. This is a very dry wine, and it's going to enhance that sweet, salty umami that we have on the plate. So cheers to great veggies and cheers to summer. I'll see you next month.